Right now, as you watch this video, it says that the African continent is tearing itself apart. Not politically, not economically, physically. A crack in the Earth's crust stretches more than 3,000 kilometers from the Red Sea coast of Eritrea, all the way down through Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, Malawi, and into Mozambique. In some places, this crack is dozens of kilometers wide. In others, it is deepening so fast that scientists can measure the movement year to year. And if the process continues, which every piece of geological evidence suggests it will, East Africa will eventually separate from the rest of the continent entirely. A new ocean will flood the gap, and the map of the world will have to be redrawn. This is not something that might happen. It is something that is happening. The Great Rift Valley is one of the most dramatic geological features on the planet, and it is actively reshaping Africa in real time. Yet most people have never heard of it. They could not point to it on a map. They have no idea that the continent they picture as a single solid landmass is in the slow, grinding process of becoming two. And the rift is not just a crack in the ground. It created the tallest mountains in Africa. It carved the deepest lakes on the continent. It shaped where hundreds of millions of people live today. And according to the best science we have, it is the place where human beings first stood upright and walked. The Great Rift Valley is not just breaking Africa apart. It is the reason we exist. If stories like this are why you watch geography content, subscribe to Uncharted Geography right now. We go deep on the places the world overlooks, and what's coming next on this channel will change how you see the planet. To understand why Africa is splitting, you need to go beneath the surface. The Earth's outer layer, the lithosphere, is not a single solid shell. It is broken into a series of massive plates that float on the semi-liquid rock of the mantle below. These tectonic plates are in constant motion, driven by convection currents deep within the Earth. Where plates collide, you get mountain ranges like the Himalayas. Where they slide past each other, you get fault lines like the San Andreas, and where they pull apart, you get rift valleys. Beneath East Africa, something unusual is happening in the mantle. A massive column of superheated rock, what geologists call a mantle plume, is rising from deep within the Earth and pushing against the base of the African plate from below. This plume has been active for roughly 30 million years, and its heat and pressure have weakened and thinned the lithosphere above it. The result is that the African plate is not behaving like a single plate anymore. It is fracturing into two smaller plates, the Nubian plate to the west and the Somali plate to the east. The boundary between these two plates is the East African Rift System. The rift is not a single clean break. It splits into two main branches. The Eastern Rift runs through Ethiopia's Afar Triangle, one of the most geologically active places on Earth, then south through Kenya and into northern Tanzania. The Western Rift curves along the borders of Uganda, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Rwanda, Burundi, Tanzania, and down through Malawi and into Mozambique. Between these two branches sits the East African Plateau, which includes the massive Lake Victoria, the largest lake in Africa by surface area, and the second largest freshwater lake in the world. The Afar Triangle is where the rift is most advanced. This is the point where three tectonic plates are pulling away from each other simultaneously: the Nubian plate, the Somali plate, and the Arabian plate. It is one of the few places on Earth where you can stand on dry land and watch a triple junction at work. The land here is dropping. Volcanic activity is constant. In 2005, a single event opened a crack 60 kilometers long and up to 8 meters wide in the Afar Desert in just 10 days. Magma from below surged into the gap. The Earth literally split open in real time. Scientists monitoring the event said it was the kind of rifting process that normally takes hundreds or thousands of years compressed into days. The Afar Depression already sits below sea level in many areas. It is one of the hottest, lowest, and most inhospitable places on the planet, yet it is also one of the most geologically significant. If the rifting continues at its current pace, the thin strip of land separating the Afar from the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden will eventually breach. When it does, seawater will flood the depression, and the earliest stages of a new ocean will begin. The Somali plate, carrying eastern Ethiopia, Somalia, Kenya, Tanzania, and parts of Mozambique and Madagascar, will drift away from the rest of Africa the same way South America once drifted away from Africa to create the Atlantic Ocean. This is not theoretical. This is the same process that already created the Red Sea. Roughly 25 to 30 million years ago, the Arabian Peninsula was attached to Africa. The same mantle plume that is now tearing East Africa apart pushed Arabia northward and away from the continent, opening a rift that gradually flooded with seawater to form the Red Sea. What is happening in East Africa today is the next chapter of that same story. The timeline is long by human standards. Most geologists estimate that the full separation of East Africa from the main continent will take somewhere between 5 and 10 million years. But the process is measurable now. GPS stations placed across the rift record the Somali plate moving away from the Nubian plate at a rate of roughly 6 to 7 millimeters per year. That may sound insignificant, but over geological time, it adds up. In 1 million years, that is 6 to 7 kilometers of separation. In 10 million years, it is enough to create a sea channel, hundreds of kilometers wide. If you're learning things in this video you had no idea about, take a second and hit that like button for uncharted geography. It helps the algorithm push this to more people who care about these stories. And if you're not subscribed yet, you're missing out. But the rift is not just a geological story, it is a human story. The topography created by the rifting process has shaped where people live, how they farm, where water collects, and how entire nations are organized. Start with the lakes. The Western Rift created a chain of extraordinarily deep lakes that hold a staggering percentage of Africa's fresh water. Lake Tanganyika, the second deepest lake in the world after Russia's Lake Baikal, fills the rift trench along the border of Tanzania and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. It is nearly 1,500 meters deep, contains roughly 16% of the world's available surface freshwater, and supports millions of people in 4 countries. Lake Malawi, farther south, is the third deepest lake in Africa and home to more species of fish than any other lake on Earth. Lake Albert, Lake Edward, Lake Kivu. Each of these rift lakes sustains dense populations along their shores in otherwise challenging terrain. Lake Victoria sits between the 2 branches of the rift on an uplifted plateau. It is not a rift lake itself, it is a shallow basin lake that formed because the rifting on either side warped the land in the middle, creating a depression that filled with water. But its existence is entirely a consequence of the rift. Without the tectonic forces that lifted the land on either side, there would be no Lake Victoria. And without Lake Victoria, the geography of Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania would look completely different. Roughly 30 million people live in the Lake Victoria Basin today. The lake provides fish, fresh water, transportation, and hydroelectric power to 3 nations. It is the geographic heart of East Africa, and it exists because the continent is tearing itself apart. The rift also created the volcanic highlands that define the region. Mount Kilimanjaro, the tallest mountain in Africa at nearly 6,000 meters, is a volcanic peak that formed as magma pushed through the thinned crust along the eastern rift. Mount Kenya, the Virunga volcanoes along the western rift, where the last mountain gorillas survive. Mount Meru, the Ngorongoro crater. All of these landmarks are products of the same rifting process. The volcanic soil around these peaks is extraordinarily fertile, and it supports some of the densest agricultural populations in Africa. The highlands of Ethiopia, Kenya, and Rwanda are green, productive, and heavily settled precisely because the rift created the conditions for rich volcanic soil and elevation-driven rainfall patterns. This creates a paradox that defines East African geography. The rift is a destructive force. It is breaking the continent apart, creating earthquakes, triggering volcanic eruptions, and destabilizing the landscape. But it is also a creative force. The lakes it carved hold the water that millions depend on. The volcanoes it built created the fertile soil that feeds nations. The elevation changes it produced drive the rainfall patterns that make the highlands habitable, while leaving the lowlands dry. The Great Rift Valley is simultaneously building and destroying East Africa at the same time. And then there's the deepest connection of all, the one that links the rift to the origin of our species. The Great Rift Valley is where the oldest known fossils of human ancestors have been found. The Afar region of Ethiopia produced Lucy, the 3.2 million-year-old Australopithecus afarensis skeleton that rewrote our understanding of human evolution. The Olduvai Gorge in northern Tanzania, carved into the edge of the rift, yielded some of the earliest stone tools ever discovered. The Turkana Basin in Kenya has produced more early human fossils than almost any other site on the planet. The leading theory for why human evolution accelerated in this region ties directly to the rift's geography. As the rift formed and deepened, it created a dramatic change in landscape on either side. To the west, the land remained forested. Moisture from the Congo Basin sustained dense tropical cover. To the east, the rift's escarpments blocked moisture from reaching the lowlands, creating drier, more open savanna environments. Our ancestors, the theory goes, were forced to adapt to this new open landscape, to walk upright to see over tall grass, to develop tools to hunt and scavenge, to cooperate in groups to survive in an environment with fewer trees and more predators. The rift literally shaped the geography that shaped us. So when you look at the Great Rift Valley, you're not just looking at a crack in the ground. You're looking at the force that created Africa's greatest lakes, its tallest mountains, its most fertile highlands, and its most ancient human history. You're looking at the mechanism that is slowly, inexorably building a new ocean where a continent used to be. And you're looking at the landscape where, millions of years ago, something stood up on 2 legs and started walking. and eventually became us. The crack is still spreading. The plates are still moving. The lakes are still deepening. The volcanoes are still building. And in a few million years, the map of Africa will look nothing like it does today. The eastern edge of the continent will be gone, drifted away into the Indian Ocean like a piece of ice calving off a glacier. A narrow sea will separate what was once one landmass into two. And the Great Rift Valley, which today is a scar running down the side of Africa, will be the floor of a brand new ocean. The continent that gave birth to humanity is still being born itself. If this video changed how you think about Africa and the forces shaping our planet, make sure you are subscribed to Uncharted Geography. We cover the places and stories nobody else is telling, the geographic realities hiding in plain sight. Hit subscribe, drop a comment with what country or region you want us to explore next, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.